Donald Trump clinched a final electoral tally of 312. It's the most for any Republican since George H.W. Bush back in 1988. And here to break it all down with me is Matthew Peterson, editor-in-chief of Blaze News, and Clay Travis. He's the founder of OutKick and the host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show. So, Clay, Trump won every swing state. So how is he able to pull off such a sweeping victory?
I'm still walking on air, Jill. Congrats on all the success you're having, but most importantly, congrats for all the success our country's having because Kamala Harris got her ass kicked. And I think she got beaten pretty soundly because she never really told us what she thought on the issues, and the ones she did tell us about, she was wrong on. Meanwhile, Trump was right on everything, and I think we saw a major generational shift and a racial shift. Men in particular, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, moved towards Trump. It wasn't actually as much the white support that got him over the finish line. It was a new multiracial, diverse coalition. And I think it spells real trouble for Democrats and their identity politics coalition giving up the ghost. But in the meantime, boy, oh boy, was Tuesday night fun. Biggest win since 1988.
Clay, from Muslims in Michigan to the Amish in Pennsylvania, I think it was an amazing realigning election. But there's one group that you've written about on Twitter, on X, that really appeals to me, and I want you to talk about this. You spoke about how Generation X came out in large numbers. Why do you think that is?
Because Generation X has great judgment. Look, I'm the oldest member of youngest member of Gen X, 1979, April 1979. And I guess it's the 8 months that keeps me from being a millennial that has made me so sane. In all seriousness, I do think Gen X saved America. And I think a big reason why is Trump appeals to people who grew up in the 1980s and the 1990s, because we grew up in an America that was awesome and an America that was filled with belief that we were the greatest country in the history of the world. Many of us lived through the collapse of communism. We actually remember when the Soviet Union was a threat. And all of that conspired and coalesced, I think, in much appeal from what Donald Trump is saying. I'd like for America to look more like it did in the 1980s and the 1990s when it comes to Americans of all stripes and persuasions getting along and believing that America is the baddest ass country in the history of the world. And a lot of Democrats, frankly, don't believe that anymore. And I think much of Generation X, myself included, fundamentally rejects this idea that somehow as America is a fundamentally awful racist country. And we like the idea of which Trump is selling, which is American exceptionalism is a good thing. We are the freest and fairest country in the history of the world. And if the rest of the world looked more like America, the rest of the world would be far more better off. America is a good thing. And I think Gen X is one of the biggest and foremost defenders of that idea.
Now, Clay, I used to work for you and we covered college football together out on the road. And Donald Trump has been seen at so many college football games. He's a lover of college football. And you wrote on X that college football players overwhelmingly voted for Trump. So why does Donald resonate so well with this group?
Because I think young men, and I've got three of them, I've got a 16, a 14, and a 10-year-old in my house. I think young men innately are seeing through the BS world that they have grown up in, this woke universe where suddenly being male is wrong. I had one of my friend's kids a few years ago, Jill, came up to me and he was like, so I was in class the other day and the whole class was just about how white men are awful and how we've destroyed everything. And he's like, I'm 12. I can't even choose what time I get to go to bed. I'm not destroying anything. And I think that idea has spread from white men are awful, frankly, to men are awful. And I think a lot of people out there are saying toxic masculinity is BS, right? Look, I'm not saying men are perfect. We screw up like women screw up, like people all over the world screw up on a regular basis. But in general, men have brought a lot of good to the United States. And I don't think women need to rise and tear down men in order for both sexes to be equal. And also, by the way, different. I think a lot of these young men on college football programs, they saw this crazy Leah Thomas business and they don't think it makes any sense for women to be pretending to be men. And they're tired of having to pretend that they don't believe what they believe. And I am super optimistic that this next generation of men, these young men now, 18 to 29-year-olds who are just coming in to vote are going to have a big impact. Here's something else one of them said to me recently, Jill. He said, my senior prom got canceled. My senior year sporting season got canceled for COVID. They were wrong on all of that. And now I can finally go out and vote and let them hear my voice. Remember, a lot of these kids now who are coming in for their first presidential election, they were 15, 16, 17 years old when COVID shut down in 2020. They weren't able to vote then. They blame left-wing Democrats for, frankly, destroying a couple of years of their youth, and they're angry about it. And they want the freedom and the vibrancy and frankly, the idea that being male is a good thing that is being espoused by Donald Trump.
Clay, we've talked about all these different groups, right? I mean, men, Generation X, et cetera. What is your big picture for how Trump specifically flipped the swing states and came in over the top? What do you think really did it in the big picture scheme of things when it comes to the issues, why people voted?
Yeah, I've been saying it's as easy as EBC. Economy, border, crime. They're the three things that people care about the most. They want goods to not cost as much as they are. They want their wages to outpace the growth of grocery prices. And I've been making a point about this, but I've got three boys I mentioned earlier. When I take them to Chick-fil-A now, it costs over $50 for me to be able to take my kids out to fast food. We should, and now they're starting to eat a lot more because they got two teenage boys, but $50 used to be a nice sit-down meal. Things cost way more than they should. The economy's broken for many people. They think Trump will do a better job of fixing it because they remember the Trump economy when he was in office. Frankly, I think they're right. The border disaster, 10 million that we know of, probably far more have illegally crossed into the country. I think it ties in with violent crime. A lot of people out there don't feel like their families are safe. They see the rising rates of violent crime. All those things combined, again, it's as easy as EBC, economy, border, crime. Trump was right on all those. And those were the three issues that mattered the most, I think, to most voters.
Clay, you remind us all the time, though, you're rich, so you can afford the $50 at Chick-fil-A. Now, what'd you do to celebrate? What are you doing now just to make sure that we really bask in this win? Because we didn't know if we were going to get it or not.
I got, first of all, super drunk on Tuesday night, and I was really excited to do so because it felt so good. Jill, you've known me for a while. I've been fighting these woke battles, it feels like, for a very long time. And a lot of people have been throwing punches at me saying that I was wrong for being a Trump voter. A lot of people privately might say that they agreed with me, but a lot of people publicly, different people, would attack me. And I think I was right. I think I was right on all of it. And seeing the country come together and agree was a tremendous feeling. Seeing the biggest win for a Republican candidate since 1988 feels outstanding. And I've just been fighting this battle for so long that when we finally got the results, I'm still smiling. I feel like I'm walking on air for multiple days now. I'm going to take a couple of days off around Thanksgiving and just chill, go hang out by the beach. I'm going to take some trips, I think, in the early spring. I've been fighting here. I was up in Pennsylvania with Dave McCormick, who has now been called as the winner of the Pennsylvania Senate. And look, there's another election coming in a couple of years, but I encourage everybody who feels as good as I do, just go out for a nice meal, have a few drinks, tip one back. You don't always get big wins. And sometimes I think you have to pause and take advantage of really good things that are happening. And I think Trump's election on Tuesday night is the happiest I've been with an election result, frankly, in my life.